All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Roundhouse. I'm Garrett Zatlin. It's another episode where the rules are made up and the points don't matter. Let's introduce our panelists below. Jarrett Felix, we'll start with you.
Hello, everyone. Back from the state of Pennsylvania, back to New York, getting ready for NCAAs, and talking with some people about the NCAA 1500. And everyone, they love the intros. They're like, Jarrett, which one out of the NCAA 1500 runners do you think would be able to do the best job doing your hilarious intros? And I said, probably Brandon Kidder.
I might just mute you for the rest of the show. Like you won't even just get to speak or anything like that. Anyways, All American, how we doing?
Um, Doing pretty well tonight. I would dispute the Brandon Kidder claim. Maybe Brannon Kidder, but I've never heard of some Brandon Kidder kid. But yeah, I'm here. I'm ready to chat some track, make fun of Jared all night, so it's gonna be good.
If only Fox were here. Okay. All right, and Dylan, how are we doing, bud?
Good. Most recent Brockport grad that is a part of the blog. I'm good.
Awesome. Yes, congratulations on Dylan graduating there. So always good to see our writers advancing in life. Well, hey, let's hop right into it. We're going to start with the first word. Actually, got two segments here for the first word. The first question: what was your biggest surprise from regionals? It can be anything. It can be an individual. It can be a team. It can be an event. Anything you want. Dylan, I'm going to start with you, man.
I am going to say something that might surprise some of you. I'd say my biggest surprise is Edward Cheserek showing up. Um, I know we talked the talk that, oh, he's probably going to be there. He's probably going to be there. He's Edward Cheserek. He's got to come back from this injury. He's got to come back from whatever's been ailing him. But I was really down on Edward Cheserek, I'll be totally honest. And although I thought he was going to advance to NCAAs, I didn't really think he would advance in the way that he did in both events. He looked ready to compete and looks ready to win an NCAA title again. So that's my screw up, big one.
Dylan making a very good point there. There was a lot of doubt going on early, but you know, he came up and he showed up. Caleb, what you got?
I have to go with an event, and that would be the 1500 out west. And I know the way the weather affected things definitely um, played into that, but and this could be personal bias speaking, since I nailed the whole 5 of the 12 picks. But just some of the guys that missed out there really shocked me. I mean, there are guys that showed up well at Pac-12s and everywhere else this year that just couldn't seem to get the job done. So I was shocked with how that played out. It's definitely my biggest surprise. And I was surprised the 5K wasn't crazier. The 5K ended up being fairly straightforward. Weren't any huge names that missed that were fresh coming in. So kind of mixed two events there, I guess. I don't know if that's cheating.
All good. I guess I'll forgive you there. But true, even though you did get the 5 out of the 12, you did beat me in the prediction contest, something I was very salty about. But all right. Hey, we still got NCAAs. Jarrett, what are you thinking?
For me personally, I would say it was the Portland guys, Reed Buchanan and Will Kincaid. I thought they'd had kind of a quiet outdoor season, and I know Kincaid missed indoors. I think there was an injury there, but they came out of regionals and they were some of the top guys in their respective events. Some pretty loaded events, including that West 5K. And I think both those guys are now kind of dangerous All-American picks. And beforehand, we hadn't seen a ton of racing from them this outdoors, and now they come back, they look sharp, and I think both these guys are really big sleepers headed into NCAAs.
Yeah, during indoors, I really like Portland, so that's a great point, great pick. All right, on to the next one. Uh, well, now this is a Pennsylvania-centered blog. A lot of our writers are from Pennsylvania, barring Dylan and Fox. But what are your thoughts about PA sending only one alum to NCAAs, and that was Christian Sanders of LaSalle, who ran 146 as a PR? But Jarrett, let's start with you. You're the PA guy here.
Well, I wish I could say that this was, surprising or disappointing, but honestly, PA hasn't had a ton of guys on the national scene in any year recently. We haven't really had a lot of All-Americans. We had Sam Ellison from Upper Dublin, who had some pretty good seasons there for Villanova, but there aren't and we had Craig Miller a few years back. Those are kind of some of our biggest performers. But we haven't had a ton of guys. I think Christian Sanders making it was really awesome. He had a really nice weekend. I saw him run a Penn Relays. He looked really strong there, and then running 146. I didn't see that coming. That was a really impressive sign. But I think what's more interesting for PA is that we have a lot of young guys who look like they might be on the verge of doing something, like the Columbia guys, like Sauer and Ritz, for example. And I think some of those guys might be able to kind of be on the rise and get us a more consistent NCAA field. But right now, recently, there hasn't been that much PA going on, so good for Sanders. Obviously would have liked to have seen more, but there's a lot of really good people in the United States.
Yeah, and you make a good point. There's a competitive field overall, but the future is looking very bright with a lot of young guys stepping up. Stat Fanatic, what you got?
I wish I could bring a new viewpoint, but I can't agree with Jarrett more. Coyle was the only one who I thought would probably get through who didn't. But then you balance that with Sanders, who dropped, I think, almost 2 seconds on his 800 to get out of the East region, which is it's a crazy performance to drop from 148 point to 146 point. That's a big time run from him. And then, I think the big step for PA this year was just getting guys to regionals. I think I'd have to go back and look for sure, but I think we have more guys than we have in the past. That was a good sign. They were young guys for the most part. I think next year will be a good year for us, but I wasn't surprised we didn't see a lot of positive results this year.
Fair enough. All great points. I'd just like to point out, I do think Sanders had a PR originally of 147. Might have to correct that, but okay, I'm already looking back. No, I'm just kidding. But all right, Dylan, wrap us up on this section here.
I mean, what do you expect from the New York guy? But to sort of mirror what they said, my viewpoint was going to be just wait on it. I will say that there's some really impressive guys. Alec Peabody from Abington Friends is a really good 400 runner. Coyle, obviously. Abert, Sauer, Sam Ritz. John Lewis, who, my bold prediction, he makes NCAAs next year. Yes, I'm saying that right now. Write it down, as Jarrett would say. I just want to add, though, did Eric Futch not make finals? Did not.
He did. I guess we're talking in terms of distance runners.
Okay,
I'm sure
okay.
there's very much. But there's
Okay.
a great point. Eric Futch is a run. Yeah.
I was going to say I had to look while they were answering because I thought he had made it for sure. But, okay, anyway, nevertheless, just wait on it. PA will send multiple runners to NCAAs next year, for sure, but still not as many as New York.
He is keeping it real, Dylan, making points and already making bold predictions. I love it. All right, well, we're going to hop out of the first word, and we're going to go to a little segment I kind of made up. It's called Mad Libs. Basically, you're just going to be filling in the blank with one word. And so here we go. Edward Cheserig's double at NCAAs this weekend will be what? Caleb, we'll start with you.
Legendary.
Is that do you want to expand on that?
Oh, I thought I only got one word. I'll go with legendary. I think he's going to shock everyone. He showed the spark again, West Regional. That was a huge step forward. And this guy shows up at championships. He always has, and I think he always will. And, Powell said they were going to chase times this year, and maybe the injury affected that a little bit. We'll see. But he's going to have to run a heck of a race to beat Futsum, and he's going to have to run a heck of a race to beat that 5K field. So, and I think he's going to do both. I think it's going to be legendary. We're never going to forget this outdoor championships from Ed Cheserik.
Caleb Gatchell. Making sure we won't forget about it. All right. We'll go Train here. Train, what are we thinking?
My word is hyphenated. Uh, let's run worthy is what I'm going to go with. I think it's going to be the whole topic of the NCAA championship is going to dominate headlines. Is going to dominate discussion from people like us, from people like the people who post on Let's Run, who are probably kind of like us. Um, and I think that, I mean, I want to believe that Cheswick just has the magic now. He has the magic back. But running the 10K and the 5K, you know, both of those events at the top level needed to win against some stacked field. The 5K being second, and there's some guys in the 5K that I could see taking it out. Maybe someone like Tiernan. If Cheswick wins both, I'm just gonna have to bow down. I mean, it would be amazing considering how bad he looked at some other points during this season. I can't get over it yet. I feel like it's either going to be an epic collapse that Let's Run's going to just destroy him for, or it's going to be something unbelievable that Let's Run's going to go crazy over. That's why Let's Run worthy. One word with a hyphen in there is my word.
Beautifully well done, Jared. Although, to be fair, Let's Run freaks out over every little detail. So, no, but good explanation there, Dylan. What are you thinking?
I'm going to be a little bit more greedy than these guys, and instead of one word or a hyphenated word, I'm going with a phrase, and that phrase is upset city, baby. I did say he's ready to compete, but I did not say he's ready to win NCAA titles. 10K, he's upsetting Footsum. I think it's safe to say that him beating Footsum right now is an upset. Footsum broke 28 this year. Cheswick got broken this year. I mean, he got beat by a guy who didn't even win an NAIA title. Can't name 3 schools in the NAIA. So to say that Cheswick's going to beat Footsum, even though he is sort of on his way to being the GOAT, this season rather, he hasn't really shown that, especially in the 10K. So I think for him to win that is an upset. And then in the 5K, that's sort of his thing. He's got the fastest PR in the event. So he's getting upset. By who? Maybe you'll hear about it in the bold predictions. Maybe not. I don't know. But upset city baby is my phrase. Shout out to Dickie B.
Oh, Dylan, I love the enthusiasm there, keeping us waiting for the bold prediction. You never know. All right, well, on to the next section. The next question of this section. The biggest favorite in their respective events, so the 1500 steeplechase, 5,000, 10K. Who was the biggest favorite in that respective event? Who haven't I started with? Yeah, Dylan.
Instead of Brandon Kidder, I'm going to say a real runner here, Furlick. I think Furlick owns the steeple. He's got the 5K wheels and endurance behind his steeple, the 1330-something 5K. Ran a 355 split at NCAA indoors on the DMR, so he's got the wheels on the mile end. He's got the endurance on the 5K end. He's freaking awesome at the steeple. Under 830. I don't care who you throw at me, they're not touching Mason Furlick. Whether he leads, follows, he's winning.
That's a pretty good pick. All right, Caleb, what are we thinking?
Brandon McBride. It's just going against everything that I believe in to pick him because I've always said I like racers, not time trialers. And McBride's never quite proven that he's more than a time trialer. Even the NCAA wins he had weren't classic NCAA races. But I really, really like what McBride's done this year. His 400 speed, near the best in the field. His 1500 strength, also near the best in the field again, thanks to Murphy and Kidder dropping out partially. But he's improved that vastly this year. He dropped a ton of time in that area. He's a lot stronger than he has been, and he's looked so dominant this year. I don't see any way he loses, even with a guy like Shaq Walker or Iliad Rudo in the field.
All fair points. He has been dominant. They've both been dominant. Jared, do you have anyone else, or are you going to go with one of those two?
Well, those were my two. I was prepared to argue for either of them, admittedly. So I'm gonna go with Brandon McBride, whose name is Brandon. Um, I think that he's had a really terrific season. He's won before. He's a guy that could potentially be chasing an NCAA record at this meet. He ran 144 already this season. Some of his biggest competition in Kidder, I'm not even going to try to say his first name, and Clayton Murphy, they switched events, possibly because they thought the 1500 was a better event, possibly because they thought McBride was that big of a favorite to win. So I think that kind of tells the story as well. So I agree with Caleb.
All right, excellent, good stuff. So we have Brandon McBride and Mason Furlick as the heavy favorites. We're going on to the next section, and this is one that I've kind of was able to just throw around and bounce around, and I really think this is an important question. The segment's called Off the Track, and the question is, or I guess the statement, according to a Yahoo Sports article, Mississippi Athletics is currently being charged by the NCAA for illegal recruiting. Track is one of the sports that is being charged with these allegations, I guess. What comes to mind when you hear about those charges and see that MJ Erb, Ryan Walling, Craig Engels, Wes Gallagher, and Ryan Manahan all transferred to Ole Miss from different universities within a span of a few years? We'll start with Caleb. You're the college athlete here, so let's hear from you.
It's really tough to know what happened at this point because we don't know exactly with the track team, like the nature of the issues there. We just know there were recruiting violations, and there's a lot of little rules with the NCAA with when you can contact athletes, how you can contact them, and especially the transfer stuff. I really hope it's something where your worst case scenario is they were careless. You know, they contacted people outside of the designated windows. They contacted them in the wrong way, and they weren't paying attention to NCAA regulations. That's your best case scenario. Worst case is they went out of their way, and when you have that many guys come in, it's tough not to wonder. Yeah, I mean, even when it happened, I think a few of us mentioned, like, man, there's a lot of guys going to Mississippi right now. Wonder what's up with that. You know, you see 6 guys transfer to school, you kind of wonder what's up. So when recruiting violations come out after that, I can't say I'm too shocked, unfortunately. But again, hopefully it's just an issue of them being careless, and NCAA can be ticky-tack sometimes. So that's what I'm hoping for. Not optimistic.
As a fair assessment, I gotta be careful there. Yes, we did. That's true, though. We did have this conversation. It came up out of nowhere. It was just, hey, wow, isn't it weird that they have all these guys? Jared, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, I feel bad for Manahan here because he just goes from one controversy to the next, can't seem to escape it, which kind of sucks. Like Caleb said and Garrett said, it's a big number. It's fair to be, a little suspicious when you see something like that. I mean, I kind of hate some of the NCAA rules that Caleb was alluding to. I mean, recruiting violations, and they can be like really strict and really kind of like almost like stupid to a point. Not to just bash the NCAA, but some of it just seems crazy to me. I will say that it's surprising to me that like track and field would be one of the sports that would have like problems. I mean, it's not like a big moneymaker. I know that the people who are involved in the sport, like coaches and stuff, they want to have the best team possible. So, maybe they'll push the limits, but it's not like it's like football that's making, millions and millions of dollars for the university, and they're going to do everything they can to make it super profitable, and they're going to have outside influence coming down on it. I mean, it's track, which is kind of like a niche sport. So it's surprising to me, and I guess it shows how naive I am about the world, but it's definitely surprising that it's stretching all the way to track.
Great point. Yeah, it's no one ever thinks it can happen to the small sports, but here we are. And Dylan, a couple of those guys are from New York. I don't know how that connects to you, but hell, go for it.
Well, something that Jarrett alluded to, which leads me into my reaction, which is we made it. The fact that these recruiting violations extended out to track and field, Obviously, we're not on par with NCAA football or NCAA basketball or these big name billion-dollar industries. But to say that it's now a factor that people are recruiting in that way potentially, something that could be less than legal or less than kosher, as Fox might say, um, shows that we're really climbing as a sport. We're garnering attention financially and just in general number. Um, Again, like Jarrett alluded to, Ryan Manahan just can't get out of the controversies. MJ Herb, the other New Yorker, maybe should have stayed home, gave up a ring to go to Ole Miss, and you see how that sort of worked out for him. But all jokes aside, and we made it. It's pretty disappointing to see that Ole Miss could potentially be in some trouble there, because I was pretty stoked about that mid-distance and distance core that they've really developed, and I hope that Craig Engel's efforts in particular aren't all for naught at this NCAA. Because if it turns out that he was illegally recruited from NC State, might lose out on an All-American opportunity, might even lose out on a nice shiny ring. So hopefully it's one of those stricter rules that they both alluded to previously.
Yeah, all great points. I was glad you clarified at the end. That sounded like you were really happy for the violations now, but only kidding, only kidding. But all right, well, very cool. I thought that was just an interesting little tidbit, throw in there a little bit out of the NCAA championship kind of thing going on there, but I digress. Moving on to the next section, our classic buy or sell. And this one, we're going to talk about the Campbell duo, Amon Terror and Lawrence Kipkoek. They both qualified in not only the 5K, but the 10K as well. Are you guys buying or selling that both of them leave Eugene with All-American others in one event or the other? They don't necessarily have to be both or the same event or anything like that. We'll start with Jarrett.
This is a tough question. I personally am selling this. I think that the 5K is just too deep, and they have the 10K first, obviously. So tired legs, a really deep field. I don't see them sneaking one of the All-American spots, so I think it would have to be both in the 10K. I think Terror could totally get an All-American spot. He killed it at regionals. He's had a really fantastic season prior to that. I think he was under 29 minutes earlier in the season. So, and Kipkoech has been really good too. So I'm not ruling out that he could get an All-American, but if I had to pick, I'm going to pick some of the more established guys in that 10K, and there still are some top tier guys in that field who I think are ultimately that I would bet more on them rather than these two. So I'm going to sell, but it's tough choice.
Yeah, it is a really tough field, and with so many names, you never know. Dylan, I'm going to head to you, man.
Totally selling it. No shot. I couldn't sell it quicker. In the 5K, like Jarrett said, you got Corona, McGordy, Pearson, Tiernan, Cheserek, Colby Gilbert, Grant Fisher, Awad, Curtin. That's probably all. Walling, Kincaid, McDonald, Knight. Those are all guys who have gone under 1340 right there. It's like 12 guys I just named or something like that. That are taking up most of the All-American spots. And then in the 10K, you even got Colin Benny, who was top 10 at NCAAs in cross country, which seems to translate to some 10K success. Pierce Murphy, Cheserek again, Footsum, Jacob Thompson, who's been a stud this year. There's just so many guys. Vargas as well, throw him some love. Top to bottom in both events that are really, as Jarrett said, way more established. They run faster PRs. They've been there before. I just can't totally buy this very little-known duo of runners. Terror did show some success during cross-country. As Jarrett said, he broke 29 this year. I think it was 28:55, somewhere in that realm. So I say maybe one of them snags an All-American opportunity in only one event. I don't think that they'll both get it in the 5K. I don't think either of them will get it in the 5K, and I think one of them will get it in the 10K. So, sorry, Campbell guys, stick to the soup.
Whew. Dylan, just telling it like it is. I'm loving it, man. All right, Caleb, we're wrapping up with you on this segment.
I'm actually going to buy. I know it's a stretch, but I've been following these guys since Garrett got called out for not putting them in a preseason prediction, and we all laughed because they hadn't done anything. And then they made all of us look really silly. They had a pretty solid year there. They've continued to progress. I mean, Tara winning the 10K at the East Regional, that's a pretty big win. I mean, it's not as deep as the West one for sure, but there are some big names there. That's a huge experience thing. And then Kip Koech, I'm buying into the training partner thing here. He trains with Tara every day. He's comfortable racing with him. I think he's going to be ready to roll with him and Eugene, and I think you'll see them both in that 6 to 8 range. I think they'll sneak in the back end of the 10K. I don't think they get it in the 5K. The 5K is too deep. But I think if they focus on the 10K, put their chips in there, I'm going to buy. I like those guys.
Caleb, very true. Yeah, we got called out. We laughed. We said they haven't done anything, and then we were terribly, terribly mistaken. So good catch there. Also, like to point out that Kip Koech was the guy who started pushing the pace towards the end of the 10K last year. The little no-name who also did very well there. So you never know. These guys are sneaky good. All right, and the last buy or sell before we move on to the final word. We have 3 All-Americans in the 1500. I believe, I don't have the list in front of me, but I believe that's Alex Rogers, that's Matthew Maton, and Josh Kerr. Do you see any of those guys grabbing All-American? Dylan, we're starting with you.
Sorry, I had to unmute my microphone. I am going to buy a freshman being an All-American in the 1500. I'm actually going to buy 2 freshmen being All-American in the 1500. Josh Kerr, 342 early in the season. Garrett seemed a little bit high on him. Caleb seemed a little bit high on him. And then he faded a little bit, and we forgot about him. But he showed his stuff in the rounds at NCAAs. I like him to bring that magic over to the big show, the big time. And Maton's a 339 guy. He's coached by Andy Powell. If I told you at the beginning of this year that a 339 guy coached by Andy Powell was going into NCAAs, would you say he wasn't going to be an All-American? Probably not. Both of them. Bringing it home.
All right. Well, I just want to make it blatantly clear before we advance any further. I was actually adamantly against Josh Kerr. You can check the Roundhouse episode. You can check my regionals recap. But was not really a big fan. But he proved me wrong. He's proved me wrong. He's run some really, really good races recently. So
-1 for me. -1 for me.
Hey, you know what? Everyone's already been a little iffy. All right, so don't even worry about it.
Ready? Mute button.
All right, we'll move on to Jared on this one. Jared, what are your thoughts?
So, I was high on Josh Kerr back in the day. So maybe just because Garrett and I's names rhyme. That's what came up there. Shout out to Caleb for coming up with that question a long time ago for one of our first roundhouses. Check it out on YouTube. Anyway, to answer your original question that I completely got off track from, I'm actually gonna sell. I'm thinking that no freshmen are gonna make it to an All-American spot. I do like Kerr a lot. I think he's got some good experience in rounds and finals going back to his high school. I don't know what it's called in Europe, but going back to his prep days, and he's competed in some junior championships that he's done very well at. So he's got an extra little experience edge there. Not that Madden hasn't been in some top races as well, but he ran the 5K, I think, at U.S. Juniors last year rather than the 15, so doesn't have that extra bit of experience in that race. I will say that we saw Blake Haney's teammate do something pretty spectacular as a freshman last year. So it's not like the coaching isn't there, but the reason that I'm selling, which I'm finally getting to after what feels like an hour, I just think this is a really deep field with a lot of really polished guys, and I think it's going to be fast. I think that it might actually be an honest pace, and I think the stronger runners are going to ultimately prevail, and I think that ultimately that's going to leave these guys just out.
Interesting. Well, experience does play a big role here. Caleb, what do you have?
It's just one, right? So I'm going to buy.
Yes.
Because Maton's run 339, and I agree with Jared. I think it's going to be fast. that favors the guys with the strength, favors the guys who have the faster PRs, and Maton's one of those. I think I would say he gets in trouble if you look at a kicker's race and someone like Jordy Williams, who hasn't been running great all year because he's got a different schedule in mind, I think, than everyone else in NCAA right now. But he's going to have speed. A kicker's race, Williams all of a sudden's more of a factor. Murphy's more of a factor. Some of those guys. I think Yorks takes it out, though, and I think that works in Maton's favor as a 339 guy. I like Josh Kerr a lot. It's too deep of a field for him, though. I'll agree with Jared on that one. He's done really well so far, and I like a lot of what he's done, but he's just not at the level of these guys yet. And Rogers, frankly, I thought was a little lucky just to get through. That was one of the bigger surprises out of the West Regional. So enjoy the experience, figure out prelims a little bit maybe, and then come back stronger as a sophomore for those two guys.
Yeah, I think we were all a little surprised to see Rogers get through, but it's going to be an incredible experience for him, and you never know. He got through. He could always surprise later on in the final. We'll see. But hey, we're going to go on to the final word now. Who have I not started with? Caleb, I haven't started with you in a while. We'll go right back to you, Caleb. What is your bold prediction for NCAAs?
I already used mine. That's the problem. Bold prediction, Brandon McBride sets the 800 collegiate record. He's going to go out. He's going to get out hard and go for it. And not only that, he's going to have someone pushing. Rudo and Shaq Walker are absolute studs who unfortunately haven't been talked about a whole lot in the last couple weeks because everyone's talking about how Murphy and Kidder are out of the field now. Well, Rudo and Walker are no slouches. They're going to be with him. They both have great speed. They're capable of going out hard with McBride. They're going to hang with him all the way, and in the end, it's going to be the fact that McBride's done the extra strength work over the winter that gets him to the finish line first and gets him there in a new collegiate record. He's going to be 144 low. I wouldn't put it past him to run 143.9. I don't think he does, but I think the talent's there, and I think he's going to get pushed. So that race is going to be crazy fast, crazy fun to watch.
Wow. Well, okay, Caleb, if you really say so, dude. I'll let you go with that one. Jared, Felix, anything as bold?
I don't know if I'm going quite as bold as the 143, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that both Isaac Yorks and Ed Cheserek finish outside the top 8 in their events, the 1500 and the 5K. That's where I'm going with this one. I think Cheserek, there's a chance that he won't even race the 5K depending on what the team scores look like and depending on what his health looks like. And then Yorks, I think if he does end up taking it out hard, he could be susceptible to some people going by him. If it ends up being a kicker's race, I think there's a lot of really quality kickers in the race as well. And 1500 can get crazy if it's a kicker's race as well. So I'm just going to go all in on those. I think that there's going to be some upsets. Maybe it's because of the PA State meet was absurd, so I'm carrying this over to the NCAA meet. But that's just my random gut feeling on this.
Well, you said it wasn't going to be as bold as the 143, but that was pretty bold. Well argued, but pretty bold. All right, Dylan.
I don't know how I follow those up. I mean, do I say that Cheserek's going to break 26 in 13 minutes to combat that? I don't know. I guess my mild prediction that I thought was kind of bold is that other than the 10K where there are no freshmen, I think there'll be a freshman All-American in every distance event. Not necessarily a true freshman, so don't quote me on it as a true freshman, but you got Koek, Isaiah Harris, Brian Bell, Brazier, and Heppenstall on the 8 who all have a shot at it. You got, as we discussed, the 3 freshmen in the 1500. Bailey Roth from Arizona, or goes to Arizona, who I believe set the 2,000-meter steeplechase national record in high school. I ran something absurd like 5:45 as a high schooler, which is like 8:38 pace as a prep runner. He's insane. In the 5K, you got Fisher and you have Morgan McDonald as well. And then even in the 400, there are 4 freshman runners, and I think 2, maybe 3 of them can earn All-American stuff because they are all, I believe, under 46 seconds. So watch out for the freshmen. Watch out for Cheserek and Yorks to finish in the top 8. And watch out for New York to run hard like always.
Dylan, probably making the most realistic yet still very bold pick right there. Well, now I unfortunately have to give out a winner, and despite him saying Brandon Kidder, I'm going to have to go with Jarrett Felix on the grounds that Caleb's incorrectly said the PR of Christian Sanders, and Dylan said that I was a fan of Josh Kerr, or was. So, Jarrett, it's all you. FaceTime.
You will be. You will be.
I guess where I'd like to go with this FaceTime is something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. It's Space Jam, and I'm really excited for the possibility of another Space Jam movie. But personally, there's rumors LeBron James is going to be the Michael Jordan role. I can see why that makes sense, America, but hear me out. What if we had Steph Curry star in the film, and we had LeBron be like hypnotized or something by the Monstars, because he looks like he could be like a good Monstar person. Like Steph, he'd be a great hero, like the little guy with the Looney Tunes backing him up. LeBron brainwashed or something like that. But then at the end, he teams up with Steph. It's a nice moment after Steph beats him in 2 straight finals. I think it could be a cool movie. Look it up.
Yeah, remember when I said I was going to mute you for the entire show? I'm so sorry I never did that. Yeah, well, so despite, although granted, it was better than mine where I literally just gave no answer, so, I'll give you something there. Well, great. That's all we have for today. Thank you guys for coming on. It's really funny because Caleb still has his, face in his hands, which is hilarious, but... guys, thank you for watching. I'm Garrett Zatlin, and watch out for those NCAA predictions. And we'll see you later, guys.